everybody, here is a theory video on the Joker. I know it's a movie that came out years ago. I just watched it now, and I believe personally none of it was real, right? And I know there are a lot of people are like, oh, what is real, what isn't. I think all of it isn't real, and that the story of the Joker is meant to show us what's actually going on behind the scenes through metaphors. I think what happened as the plot of the Joker is, as we see at the end of the Joker, the Joker has an interview with a therapist, right? I think that interview with a therapist is actually the Joker. Is actually the Joker being sort of changing. Is sort of what's happening as the end of the story, and is actually where our story begins. I think the Joker got into jail, right? But for once in his life, the rehabilitation methods that they have been using are actually working, which leads us to the beginning of his film. Based on his credits and based on maybe this is a world where Batman theoretically has given up the identity of the Joker and they both know who each other is, but the Joker decides to keep it quiet about who Bruce Wayne is. That I'll get to that later. We actually see that the Joker has a full-on grasp of who Batman is, and Batman has a full-on grasp of who Joker is. We don't get to see that, but the reason why I believe that is that I believe that they have been using his real alias and real backstory to manipulate him into healing. So they've convinced him he's a comedian, right? He's a clown, and that is why he went for the whole clown gimmick. That he is somebody who was suffering from a laughing syndrome and is suffering from depression. The reason why I say depression is that throughout the film, he says his death has more sense than his life, makes more sense than his life. And sense is spelled with a CENTS, which could be a pun as well, which could go into his mental idea that, hey, everything's a joke, that hey, it's a pun, it's a funny joke, and that he was just a bad comedian who went down a terrible path, right? And I feel as though that as the film goes on, he becomes more and more back to his regular self Joker. So he starts off his fiction by believing the world of what everyone says it is. It's a happy place. He is a clown. And then that crime in Gotham is simply evil, and there's no corruption between the crime and what he believes, right? And that the justice system is purely good as well, and that it's been trying to stop the crime, and it's become a well-known fact. And then he believes that, and then the first indication that he doesn't get to believe that anymore is when he gets hit with the billboard. When he gets hit with the billboard, he stops believing that it starts cracking into him that crime in Gotham is just people thinking it's fun and games, but he still has a hugely it's evil, it's good idea, right? Which doesn't fit with the Joker. So as the movie goes on, he believes he has a lover who gets his jokes, and he has a healthy mother who's trying to get money from Thomas Wayne. And the reason he probably started out the story like this was because he just thinks Thomas Wayne is a rich guy. He was probably trying to do a lot of good in his days, and even supports his own workers. And then the wife, even though it's been proven to be fake, at first he believes it probably goes into his actual origin, which is that he is somebody who was in love with somebody at some point, and that person understood his dark sense of humor with his illness and was willing to live with it. But then things change, and the moment where things get revealed is in a particular scene just when he meets Bruce Wayne. And I think this scene cracks into who he is, because the thing that makes the Joker is the idea that him and Bruce Wayne are not the same. He knows exactly who Bruce Wayne is. Him and Batman are not the same. They're opposites. And he sees that his main goal is maybe he should come and reconcile with his child. But I think it finally cracks into him what's going on, right? And this is where everything gets revealed, but I want to focus on it first. the reason why he does the things that he does is him trying to make Bruce Wayne happy, because he knows that the Batman is the darkest person and the person who does not ever have a sense of happiness. And I think that in this world, we actually see, and it comes into case, right? But the reason the Joker kills those two men on the thing as well is reasonably because Joker is the idea that he's not a Joker. He's somebody who's trying to perform self-defense. And that is the origin that he's been implanted on. And as he meets Bruce Wayne, he realizes that origin is fake. And that's when the real start happening. He first realizes his mother is now in hospital, and everything starts going down. And the comedy night, where he was proven to be a comedian, shows that he's a terrible comedian. And this cracks even more into the idea of who Joker is, because he is not a good comedian. He is somebody who's able to see funny in situations that's not. And by that being shown alongside the line, well, now not everybody. When I was growing up, everyone used to laugh at me. Now nobody's laughing now. That idea comes into fruition of what the Joker really is. And that shows that nobody thinks he's funny. And as nobody thinks he's funny, he finds killing much more easier. And we see more cracks of his psyche trying to create a story. And I think that it goes through that idea, which is where he kills the guy who gave him a gun, right? And he's trying to do this because and he kills his wife and his mother. And I don't think he does this because he's adopted or he has anger issues with that guy for betraying him. I think it's because he's believing that at this point of time, he is not a person who's supposed to be this all-righteous savior. He's a killer to the core. And when he becomes that killer, he ends up noticing that a bunch of things start also changing. The police this time kills a man, right? Which shows the corruption in Gotham. And this also shows the situation that created Bruce and Joker, right? And at the final scene where Joker is standing up and he is happily smiling and he gets a sort of feeling from that, and from that after he gets saved, everyone's admiring him. And that contrasts with how crime is seen as at the beginning of the movie, which is that it's not chaos. It's that in his idea, crime is just chaos, and the reason why that crime was, and the reason why he's being admired so much isn't as some sort of good resolution to the story. It's as an idea that the Joker knows that it's sick and twisted how the bad guy, him, is somebody who's basically running Gotham, the Prince of Gotham, and that the true Prince of Gotham, the rich orphan whose parents died because of treason, basically, by the hands of the people of the city. He knows that while in actuality everyone wants him to believe that Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne were just good guys, were just good people and people who were great, and everyone wants to focus on that good guy mentality. The truth is, the real Prince of Gotham, Bruce Wayne, his opposite, Batman, isn't the Prince of Gotham, because Gotham is run by crime and the Prince of Crime is him. And I think that he's slowly grasping that concept from the movie, that he is not some sort of comedian and Thomas Wayne is this beautiful rich billionaire who practically runs the place, but rather he is a criminal who runs the place, and Bruce was a guy who suffered a tragedy. And the reason why he gets that joke is that he thinks that the joke at the end of the day is that society believes that society believes that the opposite of him is the Prince of Gotham, when in actuality he is the Prince of Gotham.